everyone, I am really excited that you tuned into my channel today. I have moved back officially with my parents, so just a little update. I got to repaint my room and now it feels so much more like home, and the past 3 weeks of living here haven't been that bad at all. So I'm excited to get started with the semester starting in September, but today I really wanted to talk to you all about becoming a world changer. And I'm starting this series because I have heard from a lot of people that they are wanting to make a change in the world and that they have ideas, or maybe they don't have ideas, but they know the impact that they want to make and they're not really sure where to begin. And so this first part of the series is talking about awakening your inner activist. Lately, social justice has been at the top of many Americans' social agendas ever since the murder of George Floyd, coupled with the opportunity of a pandemic to really organize and mobilize communities. We are seeing such a surge in social justice initiatives, and it seems like every day you're seeing Karens being called out and family ties being cut. People are in the streets protesting and demanding overdue justice for marginalized groups, and it's really been a sight to see. Definitely overwhelming, but energizing at the same time. For me, social justice really isn't anything new. Like the concept of having enough self-efficacy to think that I could bring change to the world. I don't know, ever since I was little, I guess I've always believed that about myself and believed that that was going to be a part of my story. So if you know me, you know that I've been kind of an avid protester and community organizer probably since around 2013, 2014. And while it isn't anything new for me, I still have a lot of different struggles that I've always struggled with, such as feeling like I've been called to be so visible and so loud, but really struggling with invisibility and feeling silenced throughout my whole life. Like I knew that I had this calling to make such a big impact in the world, but at the same time, I felt so small. Like I didn't have the social capital, or I wasn't born into a big city. I didn't have people, telling me that I was going to be some great activist my whole life. It was more just this inner calling and this inner knowing that I felt like I had. And so I had to kind of push through those barriers personally to become an activist. And my medium specifically is I love taking to the streets. Like I love being there in the forefront of just people protesting and chanting and making signs. That is where I feel the most energized and like I am really making a difference. I like to be visible. I also love creating videos and writing thought-provoking posts, and it just seems like anything where I can be present and seen, I enjoy doing. I like being almost just in like the spotlight of activism and really bringing issues to the forefront of an immoral agenda for Americans. And that's what I love, but I realize that not everyone loves those things. Not everyone has a calling for those things. And I feel like despite the fact that many people don't want to protest necessarily, most people now want to make a positive impact and they want to change the world in their own way. I'm such a strong believer that I think we all have gifts and desires, and those desires that are placed in our hearts by God are meant to bring light and love to the world and meant to change it for the better. And I think that the sooner we discover those gifts and those desires and how we want to show them and showcase them to the world, the sooner we can make positive change and impact. And I don't just believe that we all are meant to change the world. I think that we all will, whether we like it or not. And so it's up to us. It's up to you to decide, how do I want to impact the world, in what capacity and to what extent? What do I want my legacy to be? That truly is up to you. And that's what I want to talk about today, is kind of awakening your inner activist, what it means for you specifically to go out into the world and change it for the better. Change is always possible. I think that all of us are capable of making change. And whether you decided, since the womb that you were going to be some champion for social justice, or if last week you saw something that angered you and you decided that now is the time, change is possible. Being an activist means campaigning for social and or political change. And as corny as it sounds, I really believe that being an activist is it's a lifestyle, you know, it's a mindset. It is an orientation for how you approach your life and how you seek to make change in the world. And when I'm talking about change, I don't mean, you know, some grand scale march on Washington or taking to the streets every day or occupying the governor's mansion. I just mean how you move about your life so that you are impacting it in such a way that stands for what you believe in. I think a lot of people equate activism to kind of the glamour of protesting, and protests make for really powerful images, but if you've ever been to a protest, you'll know that it's not what it looks like all the time. A lot of times it's people holding up signs and they're kind of talking about what they had for dinner that day or what they're going to do after, or maybe they're complaining about how hot it is and they're scrolling through social media, or they're posting everything just so everyone can know that they were there, but they really didn't actually do anything. And that's not what activism is. Activism is not just showing up. The most important thing about activism is that it is what you stand for, accompanied with purposeful and fruit-bearing action. Activism is action-based. And activism, like I said before, doesn't have to be grand scale. Activism happens most powerfully, I think, in the smallest encounters and exchanges that we have each day. So it can be having those tough conversations with your boss about more equitable hiring, or being a champion for your coworkers of color. It can also be maybe handing out packages to the homeless that have not only food or money, but a list of resources and contacts for them to get back on their feet. Activism is really actionable. So that being said, protesting is one of the many mediums that we can use to be activists. Protesting is great, but it's also very limiting, and only certain people can do it due to time constraints, due to ableism. You know, it's not for everyone. And along with that, I want to say activism also shouldn't be something that you compare yourself to others with. I know that I've been guilty about doing this, you know, seeing somebody who I really admire kind of go out and do all these great things, and I'm like, man, I gotta do that, I gotta get on it, I gotta up that. And it's not like, that's not true. Activism really is living out your purpose to change the world for the better. And so it's a very personal journey, and it's a very personal mindset that only you can do, because only you have that skill set and those ideas to bring. Let's talk about how to awaken that inner activist. How do we know what our passions are, what our skill sets are, or what do we even believe is worth fighting for? The best way to do this, like most things, is reflection. It's asking yourself these tough questions of, where do I perceive there to be injustice? Or what of the world's problems do I think are worth fighting for? What keeps me up at night? What are things that I can't stand that I have turned a blind eye to for so long? Where do I want to make change? What skills do I bring that I can make change? It's really asking yourself these long lists of questions and then coming up with ideas on what you can do to work towards that goal. And when you're done asking yourself these questions, or you may already have an idea, and it could be super specific, like, I want to end gerrymandering in Orange County to empower the Black vote. Or it could be something more broad, like, I think people deserve a second chance. And I really encourage journaling for this, having a written list, and a written list that you leave space to add to, because you're going to want to go back to this. These are your whys. This is why are these things worth fighting for? Why do I see myself as the person that needs to fight for these things? And when the going gets tough, you're going to want to have these things to reference. The next thing you're going to kind of want to write about is, where are you positioned in relation to these passions and these questions that you have about the world? And where doesn't just mean geographic location, but where are you, you know, yes, physically, but age, education, where are you in life that makes you someone who can fight effectively for this change? And this is where it's really important not to let your age or location or social capital discourage you. I know that I got really discouraged when I realized I wasn't the most popular person. So I was like, how am I gonna create these social media campaigns that people follow when I don't even have a following at all? Or how am I going to enact change when I'm stuck in a town that has 9,000 people in it? You know, these things are there, and you're gonna have to find a way to push through them, as hard as it can be. The only way that we can assure ourselves that we'll fail is by not trying at all. And I think a lot of times, you know, myself included, we allow these things to prevent ourselves from even trying to affect the change that we want to in the first place. And then we end up frustrating, all because we didn't try, and we can blame it on these circumstances that we deem preventing us from doing so. But in reality, it's us. We are our biggest barrier, and a lot of times it comes from not knowing our own value or our worth, and knowing that we are the only ones who can do what we want to do. And I think, again, this is where that comparison thing comes in, because yeah, there are so many people doing things that I want to do. There are so many authors, there are so many people making films, there are so many people that have talk shows or that are super viral on TikTok, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to do these things too, but someone's already doing them. But you have to be aware of your own value and your worth, and that comes with time, and it comes with daily practice, and that comes with probably a whole nother YouTube video that I could do. But it really does start with kind of affirming your gifts and affirming your own value. So yeah, it's not enough to journal about things that, yeah, I want to do this if I had enough social capital, or if I had enough support, or if I had this and that behind my name. You have to write about what you can do now. What are your first steps to getting there? It's nice to have a vision and an end goal, but you have to really decide, okay, today I'm gonna start on my activism journey. I'm gonna start wanting to change the world and becoming a world changer. So what is my first step? And that could be, you know, picking up a book and educating yourself. It could be attending a webinar online, or reaching out to a friend that you should have reached out to months ago who's really involved. It all starts with that first step. And I promise things become a lot easier after we start that initiative. I know the thing I struggle with the most is confidence to start or to just go through with the ideas that I have, even though I have such clarity and vision. And one of the journaling exercises that really helped me was taking a piece of paper, dividing it into like 4 quadrants, and it was likes, dislikes, and then strengths and areas of improvement. And I started to just make lists within the quadrants, and they started off super broad and kind of silly, like one of my biggest dislikes is potatoes, but then eventually it ends up getting a lot more personal and a lot more in depth. And it's like, you know, yes, I like pasta, and I also like when people smile. I like when people feel good about themselves. I like when people feel free. I like when I feel free. I like to feel like I am making a difference in the world. And when you get to kind of know yourself, you get to know what strengths and what skills you bring to the table. And if you want to bring it a step further, you can say, you know, I like helping people. And then you have to go, okay, why do I like helping people? Or how do I like to help people? It's these deep reflection questions that will get you closer and closer to awakening that inner activist. Not only because you have the confidence to do so, but because now you know by what means you want to do so, and you can. And if you hit a block, which you can, I don't want to make it seem like, yeah, I just started writing all these things that I was good at, because it didn't happen like that at all. One of the things I had to do was ask the people closest to me and be like, hey, like, why do you like being my friend? Or, you know, what are some things about me that you value? And starting to let others kind of bring that to my attention when I couldn't see it for myself. So that may be a great place to start. And also just prayer and meditation. You know, we don't spend a lot of time by ourselves in complete silence, but when you do, you can really, really start to awaken parts of yourself that have been dormant for such a long time. So now you have what you want to do in the world, what keeps you up at night, the difference that you want to make, how you want to do it, and you can literally visualize and piece together how you're going to go about the world now so that it becomes a better place through the way that you think is possible and the way that you deem possible. So you may decide, hey, I really don't like the heat, I don't like the rain, I don't want to be outside, I don't want to protest, I don't want to have people yell obscene things at me, but I am really good at graphic design and I can create graphics for protests, or I can educate others through the graphics that I design, or I have a camera and I really like to document people doing these things. I'm a historian. I like to write about these things. And so those are outlets that you can then make change. That may not be protesting, or it may not be, you know, writing something super long on social media, or just passively sharing resources. These are gifts and talents that you have that you can use to fight the good fight. And like we talked about before, the most important part about activism is that it is backed by purposeful and fruit-bearing action. So once you're done reflecting, you have to make a game plan. Be like, you know, tomorrow I am really going to listen to my Black colleagues, or I'm gonna look into organizations around my town that may be doing things that I want to do. And if you look around and you don't find the things that you want to find, this may be an opportunity for you to start something. You know, this pandemic has really been a catalyst for creating your own initiatives and starting an entrepreneurship. So if you see something that you want done that isn't happening, it's up to you to make it happen. Now it is a personal mission. Now it is an obligation to fulfill your purpose so that the rest of the world can reap the benefits of it. You have to really see yourself as kind of larger than just you. You know, your purpose is something that is meant to make the world a better place for generations to come. The last thing that you want to write about that I think will help you awaken your inner activist is writing not only your whys, but your why nots. And this is a part that I think a lot of us, or maybe I can just speak for myself, but I avoid this. I don't like talking or thinking about the things that hold me back. I don't like admitting to weaknesses or things that I deem to be failures. So this part is often the hardest. Ask yourself, why haven't you pursued your dreams? What are the things that have been holding you back from realizing your full potential, from making the impact that you want to make? For me, it really was, you know, lack of popularity, or not feeling like I had the look to be showcasing my ideas and myself on social media, or where I come from, things like that, that for so long I had let hold myself back from being an activist and thinking that I was even capable of making change. And the truth is that we're not all just capable of making change, but we are meant to make change and impact. We're all meant to, I think, be called to be activists, because we all have things that we would like to see implemented in the world. We all have this inner desire to leave the world a better place than how we found it. The things that we take for granted today are a result of someone seeing something in the world that wasn't there before, or that they think needed to change because it was unfair. And so they did something about it. And now that burden is on us. That obligation is on us to be the change that we want to see in the world. We can't continue to wait for other people to do it for us, or else it won't get done the way that we want it to get done, or the way that we can do it. Thanks so much for joining me on Becoming a World Changer series, part 1, Awakening Your Inner Activist. I really hope to talk to you all about a lot of things, you know, related to actualizing your purpose and realizing your dreams, because it's important. And I think that we're all called to be world changers and bring love and light to this world by living extraordinary lives full of intention and purpose. If you enjoyed this video, or if there is something that you would like me to talk about or possibly collaborate on, please let me know in the comments. I am open to whatever, so I look forward to hearing from you all.